Hey everyone! The last song I want to talk to you about from the collaboration EP with Pieter Nooten is called Happy and Sad. Originally, this song was written in my early 20s about being in a difficult relationship with a boy, where I simultaneously felt happy to love him and sad to be in the difficult situation with him. So I tried producing that song back then, but it wasn't a fully developed song, so it didn't quite work. As with the other songs from Mountains in Tumult, the track was from a very personal perspective. But this one, Happy and Sad, lacked the scope and range that the other tracks from Mountains in Tumult had. I wrote Mountains in Tumult when I lived in Los Angeles, and I had the consciousness of a 20-something-year-old woman who still lived in the same city she grew up in. I grew up around the entertainment industry, and whatever degree of depth or self-consciousness or self-doubt that could have fostered within me. I then made a big leap and dropped my life in LA and the US and moved to the UK, to England, to create a more beautiful life. We moved there to pursue my partner's dream of earning a PhD in English literature and to continue the dream that I had had since my teens of moving back to England. I had lived there once before when I went to university there. So my cover of For a Better Place, my second release, this is the front, and on the back of it, you see there are two boys and me. And these boys don't represent children. I don't have any children of my own, but they represent my fur babies, my kitties. And the story of For a Better Place was filled with my empathy for my cats and other animals who can't speak for themselves and so need humans as guardians to kind of create a better world for all of us. So this album contains my empathy for them mixed with my own desire for change and growth to move toward a life that's better for all of us, for them, and for us, for a better place. LA was a grind, and I needed to get out of LA to find myself, my soul, and to find my depth of consciousness. So that's what these songs were about. Which was a little bit of a deviation from the solipsism of Mountains in Tumult. While in England, this song, Happy and Sad, swished around my hard drive where I would work on it as I developed my production skills. But the song was not quite right because fundamentally the theme was great, but it needed a new motivation, or to take a term from acting, a new through line. The song had a fundamental songwriting issue. It needed another step, which at that time I wasn't ready to make because I didn't have the maturity or the life experiences to develop the potential of the track yet. In 2019, when Pieter and I were assembling together the songs that would comprise this EP, I turned to this song and I kind of wiped the slate clean, except for the beginning melody and the first line and the title. And it came to me that I have a new, current, happy and sad relationship with Berlin. There are exciting and enriching opportunities here, street music being one of the biggest developments for me and myself as a performer and as a musician. Sadness in that this city has required endless hustle, including a lot of exhausting hard work, building up new freelance businesses here, as well as the fact that just simply moving to Berlin was a direct result of a failure, in a sense, of our previous life in England. My partner wasn't able to get another post in academia, and the UK government gave us 14 days to leave. So we put our cat in the car and moved to Berlin. So how do I sing about a love affair with a city? And not just any city. a city which has one of the most diverse histories in the world, with countless layers built on top of one another. A city that is changing so rapidly, it's difficult to keep track of all the layers. I mean, they are still finding undetonated World War II bombs in Berlin as they excavate for new developments. So it's impossible to forget the history here, from old Berlin, where they drained the swamps, to Berlin in World War I and the Weimar Republic, to Berlin in World War II, and then a divided city, which represented a divided country. And then the confusion after reunification. I mean, you can still feel the difference in parts of Berlin between the former West and East halves. And to live in this city it's wild, and it's also humbling. And as I approach my 40th birthday, how do I, as a person developing with layers of my own history, so LA layer, England layer, and now Berlin layer, talk back to this beautiful city and her layers with a layered song, with its own history of development, with eras of problems and stagnation, and then flow and movement forward. From being about a girl whose big complaint was that she was feeling sad and confused with a dude, to a woman growing older, trying to survive and love and live in one of the most fascinating cities in the world. The song lyrics are structured in short lines comprised of dialectical opposites, which are kind of dependent on each other. So the middle section goes like this. It says, salty and stacked, arma aber sexy, glitter and gears, hyper and mad, happy and sad. So I'll sing this little section for you. Salty and stacked, but sexy, glitter and gears, hyper and mad, happy and sad, when I'm with, when I'm with. So the first line, salty and stacked, is about my own experience in aging. But I also see it as a gravitas in some of the women here, a classiness in aging that doesn't have any shame or need for surgery. Acceptance of imperfection for the value of the depth and range of experiences. And also kind of accepting that inside of myself. We're also a city of partiers and ex-partiers. And whatever that means in terms of us living together in this big city and sharing spaces. My favorite line, which I would like to use for the title of this whole EP, is glitter and gears. There's a certain type of young clubber here in Berlin for whom wearing glitter on their faces is a staple or a requisite clubbing attire. And this is at a time when we're all learning about how ecologically horrible glitter is once it enters the waterways and gets into the marine life. And so the contradictions of these young clubbers who carry hemp tote bags, but yet wear glitter every weekend on their faces was quite stark for me. And gears. Berlin represents a casting out of the ex-DDR period, former East Germany, with an aggressive capitalism that is dirty. There's a lot of coal. I was in my apartment watching the barges carrying coal from South America up and down the Spree every day. It also represents this destructive and all-encompassing aggressive capitalistic move forward. So, and there's many open and free spaces for partying that are being taken over by aggressive development companies to make uniform flats and office blocks, kind of like the one I live in right now. So it really encapsulates the contradictions of capitalism for me.